One of the things my wife and I did for the first time this year was we raised our own meat chicken. We chose to raise Cornish cross chickens. They mature in 8 weeks, so it doesn't take very long to go from chick to butcher day. We did it in 2 different batches. The first batch was in early spring, and the second batch was in late summer. We did that so that we had time between the 2 chicken batches to go on vacation and leave the house. So we get them from day 1 from the hatchery. They show up in the mail, and they hatched the day before typically. And we need to get them from their box into their brooder. Their brooder is supposed to simulate the mother hen, which we don't have for 20 plus chickens, or I think 33 chickens, which we did the first time. So in the brooder, we have wood shavings on the bottom, we have a heat lamp, a heat source, we have water and food. We also provide grit for them because they need what's called rooster teeth. They don't have a stomach, so the food they digest goes into their gizzard, and their gizzard is a muscle, and it needs some sort of hard material in there to help digest the food, and that's what is referred to as rooster teeth, really just small rocks and dirt. So we get them in the brooder on day 1, and I promptly kill one that day. I put something down on top of it, I didn't realize it, and then the next morning I go down there and find a dead chicken in there. So I've lost 4 chickens so far because of stupid mistakes that I've made in this year. That's kind of sad. But hey, mistakes are made and lessons are learned, and that's what you do. We had these 33 chickens, now 32 because I killed one, and we give them all the food they can eat for the first 5 days of their life. Right, so they're in this brooder, they're just chomping away whatever food you can give them. Just keep giving them food for 5 days. After the 5th day, then you hold the food back to just 12 hours a day, as much as they can eat in 12 hours. After about 3 weeks' time, they should be old enough and big enough to go out into freezing temperatures or cold temperatures. So it gets down to 30-something, 40-something at night. They're not going to die. They might die if they got really wet and couldn't get off the ground and it was cold. So you have to take that into consideration. Also, the certain number of chickens is better. So there's a sweet spot. 100 chickens might be too many, 25 chickens might be too few. There's a good certain number of chickens that you want to have. They can keep their own body heat the right temperature without overheating the ones in the middle and freezing the ones on the end. So we put our chickens out 3 weeks after we got them, and it was pretty cold. We were a little worried. This is our first time putting these chickens out onto the ground. They are very small and they go out into the big unknown, the big wide world. We just had them on Justin Rhodes Meat Shaw with a Premier 1 electric fence around them. The chicken fence. Our chickens were pretty small. They actually went right through the chicken fence. So they make a shock or not fence, which is a chicken fence with a plastic mesh skirt around the bottom. We didn't have that the first round. So the first week of our chicks on the first batch outside was kind of comical because they would just getting out of the net pretty easily. So that was kind of tricky. We had to somehow keep putting them back into the net. But then after about week 5 or 6, they finally got big enough to they couldn't get out of the net anymore. I also noticed around week 6, hey, these guys don't look very big, and so I did the weight chart. There's a chart from Kentucky that you can measure the chickens every week to see if they're on track, if they're getting too big or they're not big enough. Give them more food or less food. Come to find out, at 6 weeks, my chickens were looking like they were supposed to be at 4 weeks. So I was not giving them enough food. Same problem I have with the pigs. Called Justin. He said, don't worry about it. Just give them a little more food and they'll be fine. So we did that. We gave them a little more food. We had our butcher date set, so we couldn't give them another week of time because we had help come in and we had everything all figured out with the picker that we borrowed and everything. So we couldn't change that. So I gave them more food. Chickens got bigger. When the first batch got to 8 weeks, they were about 3.5 pounds average after slaughter. So they were about 5-pound chickens before slaughter on average. It's pretty small for a roaster bird, I think. We would have liked to have them a little bit bigger, but hey, it was our first time. We had our first batch of chickens in the freezer and they were a little small. Not a big deal. Our second round of chickens, though, I didn't want to make that same mistake. So we fed them, and we fed them a lot. We fed them, I think, $1,000 worth of feed for 44 chickens, and we averaged, at the end of that processing, we averaged about 5.5 pounds of a dressed chicken after the slaughter. So our biggest one was 7.5 pounds dressed. So that was a 9+ pound chicken, which is almost the size of a turkey. Anyway, so that's our story about growing meat birds. I'll put something else up about how we actually process them ourselves. If you're at all interested in these videos, thanks for watching, and go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. After the first